Welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 20 minutes. Now, I have done the hard work for you. Generally, it takes a lot of time to cover current affairs on a daily basis because you have to choose important topics from the newspaper. Which topics are important, which topics are unimportant. So that part is done by me. I have already done the hard work for you. I have chosen the important topics that featured in today's newspaper. All you have to do is just spend 20 minutes with me and discuss those important topics so that your current affairs for the day are getting covered. Okay, so let's straight away jump into the lecture. Let's straight away talk about which topics we are going to cover today, which were the important topics that are important from the perspective of civil services examination. So here are topics of the day. So in total we are going to be covering 4 topics. Topic number 1 would be Biden and Indo-US relationship or Indo-US ties. During the Biden administration, during the tenure of President Joe Biden in USA, India-USA ties have improved a lot and there were a lot of agreements that were signed in the recent past. So we'll talk about this. Then, to prevent the problem of urban flooding, which is becoming a huge problem these days, town planning should shift and it should focus on creating cities that are able to absorb excess water. And here comes the concept of sponge cities. So, what is this sponge city concept? We'll talk about this. Then, Neom project of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is building 5 mega cities, big, huge cities, high-tech cities, and it has named that project Neom project. It has been criticized in the Wall Street Journal and international magazines. So we'll talk about this Neom project of Saudi Arabia. Why did Saudi Arabia come up with this project, and what is the criticism? Okay, and in the end, we'll talk about oil PSUs dividend stuck in Russia. Look, Indian oil companies, various Indian oil public sector undertakings like Indian Oil Corporation, Hindustan Petroleum, and many others, they had invested in Russia, but they are not getting the proper return of their investments. The reason is that though they are earning money in Russia, but their money is stuck in Russia, it cannot be repatriated to India because of certain international sanctions against Russia. Therefore, their money is stuck in Russia. So we'll talk about this issue as well. All right? Okay. So without further delay, let's straight away jump to topic number 1, which is Biden and Indo-US ties. So the Biden presidency has been enormously consequential for Indo-US ties. President recently remarked that his country's partnership with India is stronger, closer, and more dynamic than any time in the history. Okay, the biggest contribution as far as India-USA relationship is concerned, the biggest contribution of Biden administration is that in 2021, Biden elevated the Quad to the leaders level, the highest in the international diplomacy. So the Quad grouping, we have talked about Quad grouping. Biden administration was the one which actually introduced the concept of Quad Leader Summit, and it hosted the first Leader Summit in 2021. Now it has become a regular occurrence. The Quad groups top leaders, president, prime ministers, meet every year, and a summit is held. Okay, so this is his biggest contribution. Because of this, the Quad group has become quite significant. Okay, now, another big contribution of the Biden administration is India USA tech cooperation. 21st century is the age of technology, right? So 21st century is the century of tech, and India needs all the support from USA because USA is a tech giant. India needs all the support from USA to advance in this field, to advance its innovation, productivity, everything. Now, 3 major agreements have been signed between India and USA, which actually underline the tech cooperation between these two countries. One was in 2023 called Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technologies, launched in 2023 in Washington to facilitate strategic technological collaborations in critical and emerging technologies like AI, big data, quantum computing, many other things. And through this project, both these countries would also co-develop, co-produce new technologies. Okay. Then, in the previous few lectures, we talked about an agreement for setting up a semiconductor fabrication plant in India, and that plant is called Shakti. We have talked about this in previous lecture. So this is a big agreement. And what we discussed in previous lecture was mineral security finance network. India has joined this, and this would ensure access to supply chains of critical minerals. And these minerals are called critical minerals for a reason. They are critical for new age technology being used in India. Okay. So this is all you need to know about the recent Indo-US ties, especially during the Biden administration. Just remember these three initiatives. They actually underline or mark the closeness between the two nations. Okay? All right. Now let's move on to next very important concept, which is gaining currency these days. It is sponge city concept. So the new phenomenon of urban flooding is taking major urban economic centers by storm. Because of climate change, erratic rainfall patterns are being seen, and this is causing a lot of instances of urban flooding. The reason majorly for that is there are two major reasons why urban flooding is becoming a huge problem all over the world. It's not just India, all over the world. First is global warming. This is a big reason. Because of global warming and climate change, erratic weather patterns are emerging. Okay, and this has caused problems. So, because of this, then number two is most of urban areas are made up of concrete structures. Okay, there are no wetlands. There is very little space for green areas. There is very little space for wetlands. These green areas, soil, water bodies, they are very good in absorbing excess water. But because most of the cities are made up of concrete, this excess water is not being absorbed by the ground, and because of that, urban flooding phenomena emerges. Right? So now, town planning or urban planning is using a new concept called sponge city concept. This would ensure that urban flooding or instances of urban flooding are reduced to a minimum number. Okay, a recent IPCC report said 700 million people already live in areas where rainfall extremes have increased in number, expected to grow as global temperatures rise. So, to prevent these disasters in urban areas, sponge city concept is being floated. Now, what are sponge cities? Very simple, okay, but very important. Question might be asked about this in prelims as well as mains. So, what are sponge cities? These are urban areas with abundant natural areas, like they have enough trees, lakes, parks, and other good design intended to absorb rain and prevent flooding. Look, if your cities are majorly made up of concrete, then rainwater would not get absorbed in the ground. Rainwater would just flow over it, and this would cause flooding. But if your cities have enough green areas, they have enough soil, enough water bodies, then this excess water gets accumulated to these areas. Plus, soil is very good at absorbing excess water and improving the water table of the region also. So, plan your cities in such a way that they have enough green areas, enough water bodies. These cities can hold more water in rivers, greenery, soil instead of losing it to evaporation, meaning they are more resilient to even drought. Because in case there is no rainfall, the previous season's rainfall's water would have been preserved in the ground because the city has absorbed it. So even if a drought comes next season, this city need not worry because they have enough groundwater. Natural ways to absorb urban water are 50% more affordable than man-made solutions and are 28% more effective. And this is a study done by World Economic Forum. Okay? Now, how do we measure the sponginess of a city? I mean, sponginess of a city means that how much green spaces it has so that it can absorb rainwater. So there is an international study being done. A new AI-based study compares cities, trees, and lakes to how much concrete they have to gauge their ability to respond to climate shocks. So this study uses satellite images, artificial intelligence, machine learning to make the calculations regarding how much water a city can hold. Because of it, this term is important. This is a very good phrase. Use this phrase in your mains answer. Blue and green infrastructure. Blue infrastructure means water bodies. Green infrastructure means parks, trees, and all that. These tools can allow cities to quickly gauge the best use of their available space, from rainwater harvesting to ponds and inner city gardens, as well as the risks in not doing so. Okay, so this is the concept of sponge cities, and new cities can be built on this concept. Already existing cities can also be like revamped to become sponge cities. All right. So this is a very good solution to these climate-related disasters in urban areas. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to our next news item, which is the big mega project called Neom project of Saudi Arabia. Okay. The Wall Street Journal, it's a very huge newspaper in USA, published a highly critical report on Neom, the ambitious Saudi mega city project championed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So Mohammed bin Salman is building 5 cities. but very big high-tech cities. Like one of the cities under the Neom project, as you can see in this picture, is called the Line. It is a 170-kilometer line. Okay, it is a line city. This line is 170-kilometer long, and people would be living here. There would be parks, theaters, everything in this line city. And this is a big project. Okay, and this is just one of the projects under Neom. Neom was visualized as part of Saudi Arabia's ambitious Vision 2030 project. Look, currently Saudi Arabia knows that its money is coming from crude oil. Saudi Arabia is rich because it has a lot of crude oil resources and is being able to sell those crude oil resources. But Saudi Arabia also knows that in future crude oil won't be used that much. People are shifting to electric vehicles, use of fossil fuels would decline. Then what would Saudi Arabia do? Therefore, Saudi Arabia is already planning ahead. It is actually planning for the future. That once its oil resources are finished or people don't use its oil resources, what would it do? So it's planning mega projects. It is actually thinking of making Saudi Arabia a huge tourist destination. And for that, it has this Vision 2030 project. Now, what is Neom? So, Neom, what is Neom basically? It was first announced by Crown Prince in 2017. Its name is basically a fusion of two words in two different languages. Neo comes from Greek language, which means new, and M comes from Arabic language, and the word in Arabic language is mustaqbil. Mustaqbil actually means future. So Neo plus mustaqbil, Neom, means new future. This entire project is spread over 26,500 square kilometers. It is situated in Saudi Arabia's Western Tabuk province. Initially, when in 2017, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced this project, it was actually thought that this project would cost around $500 billion, which is quite a lot. But already, while implementing this project, the costs have escalated to 1.5 trillion, which means 1500 billion already. Okay, so it is expected to be completed by 2039. It's a huge project. Now, I've told you before that this project involves 5 projects in it. 5 cities are going to be built. Okay, the most famous one is the Line. Then there is a octagon city. It will be in the shape of an octagon. Okay, and half of it would be on the beach, half of it would be floating in the sea. It's a huge project, very difficult. Then there is a Trojena project. Trojena would be a site built in Saudi Arabia's mountains, which will have ski resorts, which will have artificial ice, snow, and all that. Then there is Magna, a luxury lifestyle coastal area, beaches, yachts, and everything. And the other is Sindala, again a luxury island in Red Sea that Saudi Arabia is going to build as a tourist destination. Okay, so these are the 5 projects being constructed under Neom. Very big project, like $1.5 trillion. It's a lot of money. India's GDP is $4 trillion. So you can understand that this entire project would cost around, would be one third of India's GDP. So it's a big project, right? Now, Wall Street Journal has actually revealed 3 problems with this project. First of all is displacement of people, local people who are already living here. The Saudi Arabian government is forcibly evacuating people out of here who have been living here for centuries. Saudi Arabian government, for the construction of this project, are actually removing these people. So it is causing internal displacement. Then the projects are getting delayed. It's a difficult project. So there are massive delays in this project. And third is that these cities that are going to be built in Saudi Arabia, they would have a proper surveillance infrastructure through which Saudi Arabian government would surveil on its own people, would conduct surveillance on its own people. So this would be a breach of people's privacy rights. So these are the 3 major flaws in this project. That's about it. And last topic is oil PSU dividend stuck in Russia. So what has happened? For 2.5 years, the dividend income for Indian oil companies from investments in upstream projects in Russia have been piling up in that country. Look, various Indian oil companies had invested in various projects of Russia. Now, those investments would generate a return income, but that return income is deposited in a bank in Russia. Okay, this return income is around $900 million. It's quite a lot, but this is in a Russian bank. Problem is, it is very difficult to shift that income from a Russian bank to an Indian bank. So these companies' income is stuck in Russia, and it is getting difficult to repatriate this income back to India. so that these companies can use it. Now, what is the major reason? Since the time Russia has invaded Ukraine, Western countries, especially USA, has imposed sanctions on Russia. One of the sanctions, economic sanctions, involves Russia being blocked from the SWIFT system. Now, the SWIFT system is responsible for international payments. All the international payments, all the major international payments, all the major international bank-to-bank payments, transfers from one bank in one country to another bank in another country, happens through SWIFT system. Okay. Now, this SWIFT system is very important for international transactions. But the thing is that Russia has been blocked from this SWIFT system, and therefore, money in Russian bank is not getting transferred to an Indian bank. And this is the problem that Indian oil companies are facing. Okay. So now this news is okay. You won't be asked questions from this news. What you would be asked from is, what is this SWIFT system? Okay. So SWIFT system. Uh, just ignore this picture. All right. It is a cooperative established in 1973 in Belgium and controlled by central banks of the G10 countries, the European Central Bank, and the National Bank of Belgium. So basically, SWIFT, the full form of SWIFT is Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. So basically, whenever you place an order of transferring some money from a Belgian bank to an Indian bank, the messages between the two banks take place through this SWIFT system. Okay, it was established in 1973 in Belgium, and it is currently controlled by the central banks of G10 countries, like Federal Reserve of USA, Bank of England, and all that. European Central Bank and National Bank of Belgium. SWIFT provides the main messaging network through which international payments are done. Currently, there are 11,000 member banks who use SWIFT system. These 11,000 member banks belong to these 200 countries. Okay, so this is the SWIFT system. You need to know only this much information. Please make sure you remember this information because questions are definitely going to be asked from this SWIFT system. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. Though, if you want to add more value, you need to revise these current affairs as well. How can you revise these current affairs? Download the PDF of this lecture from our Telegram channel. Now, the link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below. So click on that link, go to our Telegram channel, follow it, and download the PDF file for not just this lecture, but all the other lectures that feature on our YouTube channel. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.